Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight on the program, we put the spotlight on the political battle between the APC, the PDP, and of course the coalition's ADC in the just concluded by-elections that pretty much gave Nigerians a glimpse of what may happen in 2027. Some would say the ADC fell short of expectations, getting just one seat available up for grabs in the recent contest. But of course, the contest was marred by question marks about the credibility of the elections, irregularities in parts of the country, and of course, the expectations of the electorate when it came to the verdict. But what does this say about all the political talk that has inundated the polity around what may come ahead in 2027? Well, let's speak to an ADC chieftain. Dr. Ibrahim Mani is here to talk to us about the outcome of the election, what it says about the ADC and their future plans to win the hearts and minds, but most especially the votes of the people going forward. Dr. Mani, thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Right. Some would say bad omen for the ADC, given the quote-unquote bad performance over the weekend in the by-elections. How would you categorize what happened?
Yeah, actually, when the call for the by-elections came forth, which is just about a month ago, we had two choices. One, to go for the elections, and the second is not to go for the elections. And for strategic reasons, as a party, we decided that we'll make a minimal appearance in these elections, and we decided to select some of the places that we feel we can field candidates, and we did that purely for strategic reasons. We want to know how these elections are going to be, and we want to be able to have first-hand information and data as regards what is likely going to unfold in the bigger elections in 2027, which is actually what we are eyeing. And we have no regrets. The fact that we have contested in some of these elections and we saw what happened, the party is very much satisfied to the extent that we have by now know exactly what the game plan is, and we definitely will strategize as to how to approach these things. And they come in many different dimensions and ramifications. Of course, the ruling party, they did their worst. The problems with the electoral management body, the involvement of security agencies, and as a matter of fact, even complacency on the part of the voters as well. So these are all issues, and we're still collecting information. We're going to do our own analysis, and we definitely will come out with a strategy to be able to counter all of these things when the 2027 elections are here.
Some say if this was a sign, then the ADC has a lot of work in its hands ahead of 2027, that the voters are not buying into the idea or the brand or the product that the ADC is selling, and that's why the performance was abysmal.
No, I don't think this is correct. If you look at what is happening in the country, clearly the reasons why they're able to buy votes, which was majorly what happened in most of the polling units that we monitored, where they were able to buy votes, is because partly,
who are you accusing exactly?
I mean, the ruling party.
Right. They were the only ones buying votes?
No, we saw, generally, they were the major beneficiaries of the elections. There are instances where in Kano, the ruling party in the state also bought votes. And in most of the places, we're talking about the APC here, they did more vote buying than the other parties comparatively. So why is it possible? It's clearly because they have weaponized poverty. They have so much impoverished the people to the extent that maybe the game plan, which is like the end game, is to be able to use this poverty against the people and bring about money to induce them during elections, which is a big improvement from what we saw in the previous elections, where they were just giving them spaghetti and macaroni. At least now there is a little improvement. They're giving out monies, in some instances as much as 20,000 naira per vote, per voter. So these are the things that we are seeing. So you cannot blame a party that is just information. We're still rolling out things. We're doing our own mobilization, setting up structures, trying to create, an enabling environment that Nigerians will have some confidence in the electoral system, and for the fact that we tested the waters with these elections, and this is what happened. If we didn't participate in the elections, I won't be sitting here and talking about what we have observed and what we have seen as a clear indication of what a government can achieve if they made poverty to be this widespread and rampant in a country.
Some would say, Doctor, there doesn't appear to be a correlation between this widespread poverty and the apparent popularity or acceptance of the APC when it comes to the vote. How do you explain that? I mean, if the rising poverty is supposed to send people out to vote against the party that is quote-unquote responsible for the poverty, how come they're still winning elections? What is your explanation?
Okay, so when people are poor, it apparently means that maybe they're hungry. It apparently means that they're deprived. It apparently means that they are sick. It apparently means that they have so many issues to battle with. And this is the enabling environment for money to be used. And the issues is the fact that because it's an off-season elections, so they can zero in on these small areas where these elections are happening, these constituencies, and pump lots of money. And because of the situation of the country and the way the people are, it's not difficult for them to accept the money. The fact that they bought these votes and they're able to claim that they have won the elections with the assistance of state machinery, including law enforcement agencies, does not say they are popular. They will only be deceiving themselves for them to think that they are popular. What makes a government popular, what makes an administration popular, is the fact that the people are happy with the policies and the people are doing well. And this is not the case in this country.
That is how the APC sees it. It says this is an endorsement of the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the performance of the APC administration. That's why Nigerians still have faith in the APC.
I think they're being elusive. They're daydreaming. What we have seen is clearly an indication of the failure of their own system. If you are truly popular and you have done all that you are expected to do in terms of doing what is right for the livelihood of the people and giving them what they need in terms of this, basic amenities and basic infrastructure, you don't need to take money to the polling stations and buy votes. So I think they're just trying to also not only make a fool of the system, but also want to take Nigerians for a ride. They are shameless to come out and say that by buying votes they are popular. It doesn't add up.
So if they outspent you in this off-season election, what are the chances that that's not going to repeat itself in 2027?
Okay, we didn't go out to spend money during the elections, so the case of outspending us is not what happened. We didn't offer 10,000 and they offered 20,000 naira. No, that's not what happened. But we have learned, we have lessons to learn, and we have definitely strategy that we're going to put in place to be able to tackle this. We know that there has to be a lot of sensitization of the people. We have to do a lot in enlightening our people to understand the menace of collecting money and voting for people, particularly that they will not see these people around until another voting season. There is a lot of re-education and a lot of outreach that we need to do as a party. It's not just about registering people. Now, political and electoral education has become necessary now, more necessary, I mean, now than ever before, because of what we're experiencing. And like I said, we're happy that we went to this election and we got the exposure that we have now in our hands, and it's going to help us in moving forward and preparing for the elections in 2027.
But Dr. Mani, you say the exposure, the experience, testing the waters. You're talking about political veterans, legends even, within the ranks of the ADC, most of whom have over 20 years under their belt in Nigerian politics, right? What more do you have to learn? I mean, when it comes to winning elections?
No, you see, it's not these veterans or older politicians that contested these elections in, let's say, a House of Assembly seat in Niger State. These are young members of our party. These are people who are actually contesting elections for the very first time. These are people that we have groomed and make them understand why they should stick to the tenets of the electoral law and operate within the ambit of what the law permits. So this is a different ball game. What you are saying doesn't apply to the elections we've had now. And maybe it will apply to the bigger rounds of elections when it comes to maybe gubernatorial or presidential or whatever. But mind you, in a constituency where the seat available is for, let's say, House of Assembly, like the case in Niger State, everybody was there. Everybody, the governor, deputy governor, the ministers from the state, the whole might of the government was there. They have all the time in the world to concentrate there and perpetuate what they did. So this is not a case where we would look at the collective experience or exposure of the party as not to have played the role it should have played.
Is it? Is it my understanding, pardon the interruption, is it my understanding that they were more prepared than you are when it comes to deployment, when it comes to taking this election seriously?
Yeah, they were more prepared to spend money. Is that what you are saying? Because that was what we saw. This is not an election. It's clearly a charade that took place. And none of those elections that in all the 18 constituencies, including the ones that we did not feel candidates, that did not come with this kind of complaints. You know, three main things: the use of money, the intimidation of voters, as well as the use of state apparatus in ensuring electoral victory for the administration and power in the various places where these things happen. So yes, they perpetuated that. Maybe they think they will be able to do that in the general elections. I think they'll just be deceiving themselves. This is the case here.
You talk about the APC, for instance. I mean, I wonder why you're not mentioning the PDP in the conversation, but you talk about the APC deploying their heavyweights, right? But you have also deployed your heavyweights. I mean, we saw El-Rufai dancing, we saw that, you know, parade, that huge convoy, lots of people on the streets in Zaria, for instance, taking part in the campaigns. And then the APC won the election. What happened there? I mean, clearly you have someone who is seen as, you know, politically relevant, so to speak, you know, putting his weight behind the ADC, behind the candidate. Why didn't that work?
Yeah, so like I said, in all the places, Zaria inclusive, the use of money was a very important factor in determining the outcome of these elections that took place over the weekend. And then come to think of it, I made it very clear to you that we went into these elections for the clear reason that we want to be able to understand their mindset. We want to understand how they want to approach elections in 2 years' time. when the time comes. So we are not necessarily disturbed because it was supposed to be like a limited attempt. We've used various strategies. There are so many different scenarios that played out as regards how we approached it, because our thinking is that maybe for the very first time, they will really want to face the electorate and allow free, fair electoral processes to happen in Nigeria, because that has been the promise. And we're not also that much surprised that they did what they did. So instances like those big mobilizations, of course, it happens, and then it clearly shows that in our strategy moving forward, apart from the big mobilizations, we need to do more in terms of educating the voters, for them to know what is at stake and for them to know what is the right thing to do and for them to stick to it and do the right thing.
So your antidote for money politics is voter education?
Voter education is on one side, but most important thing, if there is good governance and the level of poverty in the land is not as bad as it is, it will make our work easier. And so we need to also push government, whether they like it or not, to listen more to the plight of our people. Whether they like it or not, Nigerians are not happy. Things are not going on well. There is no way you can implement the policies they have implemented, the floating of the naira, the removal of the subsidy, the rise in the price of, let's say, fertilizer for most of our people who are agrarian and so on. And all of this policy, the heavy taxation regime that we are experiencing in this country, which is very much unprecedented, and then expect that the common man in the country will be for the better for it. They know that there is poverty in the land. They have admitted that there is poverty in the land. And that is why you keep on hearing them saying that they have given out monies here and there in order to address. If there is no poverty, why are you giving people money? And of course, like the Chinese have said, it's better you teach people how to fish than give them fish.
So, assuming without conceding that money was the key factor in the victories for the APC in the just concluded by-elections, right? Let's speak to what the ADC is bringing to the table, or what the ADC is not bringing to the table. Are you saying that ADC will not go down this path of also attempting to cajole and incentivize the voters by giving them something in return for their votes?
That's exactly what I've been saying. If you want me to say...
You will not buy votes?
No, we will not. There is absolutely no reason why we should buy votes. If we were out to buy votes, we would have attempted it in these elections. We're not that broke, per se. We're not that broke. And that is why you see that there were massive rallies and good campaigns, the way it should be, the excitement was there, and then they marred it by the vote buying, by the intimidations, and by the use of state apparatus to rig these elections in their favor. And so ADC cannot be the same with them. We're not in any way planning on doing that. And more so, we have to understand our limitations as well as a party. We're not growing any war chest in this country. If you hear some of the contracts that are awarded by this administration, you know clearly that we've never had contracts awarded in those quantum in the past. And some of these projects are not necessarily proceeding as they should. And a lot of money has been allocated to them. And clearly, you will understand when you have a system or a government that is saying that what money cannot do, more money can do it, then you should understand that clearly that's their game plan. But it's for the people to understand that they owe themselves a duty, they owe themselves a responsibility not to sell their votes. This is our key message out there. But we have other things we need to do, of course, to strategize. We have a little over a year to get our acts right. We have all the time to prepare. And definitely, the outcome cannot be the same with what we saw over the weekend.
So, you take Kaduna State, for instance. You take Anambra. I'm sure you've probably heard what Governor Charles Soludo had to say about the ADC and their performance in Anambra State, right? You heard what they said in Kaduna State about how listen, the divisive tendencies in the messaging or in the track record of someone like Malam Nasir El-Rufai is one of the reasons why the ADC is not being accepted in parts of the state, according to the messaging of the state government. How do you counter that narrative when there is almost evidence to show that whatever the ADC has been selling over the past 2 years, give or take, I mean, the leadership has hinted at how this was 18 months in the making before the announcement was made a couple of months ago, right? How are you not able to, convince Nigerians, given all that has been said, all that has been done over the last couple of months and the months preceding that?
Okay, so I want you to understand certain things that are clear here. These elections were called just about a month ago. It's not.
But you knew they were coming, right?
We knew they were coming like a month ago. And the coalition was formed in the final instances just a couple of weeks ago. The 18 months was not for the formation of the coalition, it was for negotiations. We were not telling Nigerians about the coalition. We're not telling them about our policies. We're not telling them about things we want to do differently. Within those periods we're talking about, those 18 months, we're looking at how to come together irrespective of whatsoever personal ambitions of the key players, and how to be able to form, this party and then be able to cascade, the structures from the national, the zonal, the states, the senatorial district, local government, up to the polling units. That's what has been happening in the plans. And now we're rolling out the plans, which has just started. So, like I said, we have the option of going into the elections and we have the option of not going. We choose to present ourselves in minimal areas so as to test the waters. And that's exactly what we did. So if we have 2 years of planning, definitely the outcome will have been. If we have 2 years of participation and preparations, definitely the outcome wouldn't have been the same. We had limited time, truly. And that is exactly what the situation is.
What do you say to some of your supporters who are concerned that this abysmal performance, albeit one that you say is not necessarily the end or be all, is a bad omen for the energy and the momentum that the ADC or the coalition has been building for months?
Okay, so like I've said earlier, it depends on what you are going into the whole elections for. We went there for strategic reasons, and we have achieved what we want to achieve 100%.
Are you saying that you went into the election without the intention of winning?
No, in a clear, free, fair electoral system that is unbiased and the people are allowed to vote their conscience, will have won.
Some would say, Dr. Mani, that's an excuse.
No, I'm not giving any excuses because the facts are there. People have seen videos. There are evidence that have been collected as to what happened in the polling booths in these elections. The fact that the security agencies were used in the elections are clear. We're not saying anything. As a matter of fact, in your introduction, which is not an ADC statement, you made it clear that the elections were made, and it is true.
Yeah, so there were irregularities that were handled. I mean, over 300 persons arrested in Kano, for instance. An individual whom we understand was arrested with over 20+ million naira, supposedly for buying votes, or allegedly for buying votes, but of course not on the APC side of the equation. So some would say some of the irregularities that have happened so far that have been reported are mostly on the other side of the aisle, not necessarily on the APC side.
Yeah, that is because the government in Kano doesn't control the police, so they can easily arrest them. But where the government that is either in power in the state or that controls the local area where the elections is in the same political party as the federal government, which controls the police, the army, and all the other security agencies that participated in the elections, they didn't arrest anybody, even though there are video evidence showing how people were using money and how people were intimidated and how the security agencies have collaborated in helping them to win the elections. So this is a clear fact that everybody has seen it. And you cannot use such a flawed election to want to judge the entire performance of a party that is clearly information. I think that's not been fair to us.
What do you intend to do differently or effectively then with the elections, the general elections, a little over a year from now?
Yes, like I said at the beginning, we're happy we went into this. The outcome has given us the impetus and the latitude to want to address the issues as we have uncovered them. We want to particularly get into this sensitization of our voters. We want to be able to call the electoral management body to order and to be able to show accountability. And we want to also insist that the security agencies do exactly what they're supposed to do in elections and not to participate in the way and manner we have seen this weekend. You know, there is something that the press is not talking about. The declaration by the Canadian court of these parties as terrorist organizations. It's really a big issue.
You do realize that the Canadian court doesn't have jurisdiction?
They don't have jurisdiction in Nigeria, but they have jurisdiction in the international sphere.
They have jurisdiction in Canada?
Of course. You see, this is how it starts.
Right.
And of course, other countries, you know how the West operates. The countries in the West, they hardly operate in isolation. They operate in unison. They have the same goals. They have the same principles which they pursue. It's just started in Canada, and we want to downplay it. It will spread to other countries. And we're happy that it's happening because very soon, some of these people who are perpetuating these things will start having, travel bans. They'll start having asset freeze and so on. To a larger extent, what the Canadian court said was clearly justified in terms of what we experienced in the elections on Saturday. Dr.
Mani, are you serious about the APC or the PDP being categorized as a terrorist organization?
Yeah, when you perpetuate terror, when you use force, when you weaponize poverty, what else do you want? It doesn't have to be when somebody gun you down before, but the fact that the person instills fear in you or hunger or any type of thing that will, to a very large extent affect your humanity and degrade your being and make you, not the person that you ought to be in a country that is supposed to provide more than what you are getting. Under such circumstance, of course, terror can be established.
But you do understand, when it comes to groups like that, there is the philosophy or ideology, the intent, the radical nature of things. Are you saying the APC or the PDP is akin to a Boko Haram or ISIS or ISWAP? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm not saying they're kidnapping. I'm not saying they're trying to secede.
But that's exactly what it means to be a terror group.
No. You are limiting the definition. Anything that puts fear in you. As a matter of fact, in some parts of Nigeria, we have consistently experienced low voter turnout.
Which has been a phenomenon.
Yeah, so
over the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's why I said consistently.
Right.
Okay, for the last 20 years, who are the people in power? So
for the last 20, APC has had 10, PDP has had 10.
That's what I'm saying. And are they not the ones the Canadian court is talking about? So consistently...
But aren't you all, the lot of you, even those in the ADC, aren't you all products of these two political parties?
I have never been in any other party apart from the ADC all my life. This is the fact. But what I'm trying to say is that...
But you do know that there are some people on your side who have established themselves as, politicians and public officers in the PDP government or APC government. You're well aware of that.
Yes, but you see, it doesn't mean that all of us are the same with them. I'm talking about what...
Sounds like you're cherry picking, Doctor.
No, I'm not. I'm not. You see, if we're trying to establish whether there are things that make people to have fear and whether there are things that terrorize people because of the system we're operating. And
suffering is something that is quite global, isn't it? There are many people, many citizens in America today who are unhappy with the Trump administration for one economic reason or political reason or the other. in the United Kingdom, you can talk about inflation, cost of living, which is a global phenomenon. Many citizens have a feeling that their government is not doing right by them. But you don't go as far as to say the government in power is a terror group, or the main opposition party is a terror group because of the suffering in the land. Because suffering is a natural phenomenon, isn't it?
No. You see, the Nigerian situation is a bit different. You can have issues of the economy in some of those countries, and they put policies and they see them not working and they change and so on. At the end of the day, they always have, people who are maybe in a sort of opposition that are ready to challenge the government at any time they feel the policies are not going. The trend we have seen in this country, prior to the emergence of ADC, is a situation where we are leading into a one-party state. And that will mean that opposing voices and opposing opinions will be silenced. And this is going to happen in a country where the economy is not working, where the people are deprived, and so on. And if people are having this sort of situations that they are facing, and at the end of the day, their fundamental human rights and so on are generally not upheld, and this is actually what happens in most dictatorships, then what is it that is happening under this situation that you compare with what is happening in the developed countries? These are two different scenarios. They don't have a tendency which we are like the one we are seeing in this country. And to a very large extent, like I said earlier, it's good that what has happened in Canada happened. It's going to help us to, put a check as to the drift that we have started seeing in this country. It may make them a bit more responsible because they know that at the end of the day, there are some other people out there that can take some actions that they don't like against them because of this branding that we are beginning to see here. So this is the fact. And
is it your prayer or expectation that this labeling would help demarcate your rivals in the political arena? And is that why you are doubling down on it as a campaign talking point?
No, in any case, it's an eye-opener to the people in this country to realize that the dimensions of the bad governance they have experienced all these years is something that is even larger than what they are thinking. It's going to help us to drive our point to the people to understand that they don't have to accept things the way they are. In the voter education we are talking about, in the enlightenment, of course, this is going to be part of the topics we'll be talking about, certainly. I want you to understand that ADC has been in the opposition for the last 20 years. In our own silent, in our own small and not too loud, in our own silent way, we have always opposed government policies that are not working for the people. It's just that we are now getting a bigger stage. Of course, then we should do it in a bigger way.
All right. Talk to me then about what has played out already. Winners and losers have already been determined. We know politics, especially when it comes to election, it's a zero-sum game, right? If anything, as far as the result is to go by, it's pretty much a tug of war, especially locally speaking, in those state constituencies where you have heavyweights in the state, whether it's in Kaduna or in Anambra, where Charles Soludo and Peter Obi are going head-to-head, for instance. And we've seen, one victory, for instance, but then we've seen so many losses. Talk to me about what you think it will have on the impact at the local level, where there's this perception that because of, say, for instance, Peter Obi's popularity in the southern part of the country, especially in the southeast, for instance, is supposed to be one of your winning strategies because he, frankly, advertised the ADC, especially in Anambra State, for this election, while saying that the Labour Party will not have candidates in the election. And he urged his supporters to go out and vote for the candidates of the ADC. What are we to make of the results and how the spectacular failure is telling a different story? Are you losing your popularity?
I don't know why.
From the perspective of those who are supporting the coalition, that is.
No, I don't know why you're calling it a spectacular failure. I don't see what is spectacular in this instance. But clearly, like I said earlier, we went into this for reasons that gave us the kind of results and we're happy about it. There are big names in ADC, quite okay, and there are big players in the party. But like I said earlier, some of these elections, we just produced these candidates maybe a week or two before the window for 1 week campaign was given. And then we choose this constituencies carefully and decided as to what kind of approach. Of course, there is endorsement, there is the open rally, there is the door-to-door things we did, there is the town hall approach, and we tried all sorts of strategies because we want to see how these things will play out with the people. Where we use them as test case, you know, as a situation where you have like a pilot and you want to see how these things work. And I said at the beginning, and I'm also saying it now, that the information we have gathered, the data we've collected, has made us to be better prepared in terms of what we know we're going to face and how we can approach it going towards the 2027 elections. And like I keep on repeating, I'm still going to say it now, we're happy about the outcomes of these results, of these elections.
No losses, only lessons as far as you're concerned.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's segue into something more internal. We've heard from the Deputy National Publicity Secretary of your party who has said, listen, the ADC is trying to establish a commitment on the part of people like former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Rotimi Amechi, the former minister and former River State governor, on a need to commit for the long term, whether they get the ticket or not in the 2027 elections. Let's talk about whether that is a given or just a calculation and a hope on the part of the ADC, because it looks like the party needs to keep all its big pieces intact for it to make any sort of impact in 2027. What can you tell us about some of the conversations you're having around keeping everybody on the same page?
Okay, all the big names are aware of one certainty, that none of them can go it alone. None of them can win the elections if they present themselves singularly. And they also know very well, and many polls have shown, that together and collectively, anybody that is presented from among them will win the elections because of the sheer, lack of popularity of the APC administration with Nigerians. We didn't do the polls that is rating, the government, that low. So the fact that these big players within the ADC have agreed that whosoever wins the party's ticket in a free, fair, and a transparent process, they're going to rally around that person and they will support the person.
Have they agreed?
They've agreed.
In writing?
No, not in writing. A lot
in
of
principle?
Yes. That's why they came together. There is no basis for them to come together and then after 1 or 2 months and they tear themselves apart and go their separate ways.
Surely we would not be surprised because we've seen it before, haven't we?
No, but this is
Politicians
different.
are very good at going back on their word.
Yes, okay, so you only go back if you think you stand a chance elsewhere. But they know very well that it is only when they're together, as they come in under this coalition, that the results, that the outcome they're looking for will be guaranteed. And so we have no misgivings, and that once the party structures are there and you evolve, gradually through the congresses up to the convention, and the candidate is produced in an acceptable, free, fair, and transparent manner, all the other ones that did not emerge will rally around that candidate and move into the elections. This is the reason why the coalition was formed in the first place. So we have crossed that red line.
Dr. Mani, let's talk about the electoral umpire. A lot has been said about INEC. Every time there's an election, there is always these divergent views about INEC's performance, whether the elections were credible, acceptable, free or fair. it looks to me that, you know, you have reservations about the quality of the election, but you've also won a seat in the election. So how do you square this circle about whether people can actually take your criticism seriously? Because the ones you've won, you're not going to complain about it. The ones you've lost, are the ones that you always want to highlight. So are you being fair with your criticism of INEC's conduct of the by-elections?
You see, sometimes you can clearly see where the problems are. Sometimes it's not necessarily the problems of the election management body, but in some instances, it's their problems. If certain sensitive materials that are not supposed to be found with non-accredited officers that are conducting the elections are found with politicians, in the hands of politicians, then you know definitely that these are not stuff that you can go and buy off the shelf. They're not things that are sold in the market that anybody can go and purchase and have their own copies of them. So this is where the complicity of the electoral management body comes in. And I think they need to do a lot in terms of bringing their staff who are involved in these electoral malpractices to book and get them, you know, reprimanded or even punished. So as it serves as a lesson, you know, to those who are remaining within the system and have many elections ahead to help us conduct in this country. So they need to do some re-engineering. They need to look inwards. They need to also, you know, cover the loopholes as to where these issues arise within their system. We cannot say we've lost faith in them completely, but we think they ought to up their game and do things, you know, in a more transparent, in a more institutionally accepted and democratically accepted way, in that at the end of the day, if elections happen in this country and people lose elections, nobody will come and say, this is the reason we're losing as a result of, you know, sharp practices. And so the people will accept results of elections as purely a representation of the will of the people. We must be able to get to that stage in our democratic system in Nigeria, and the electoral management body has a role in this case. And this is what we want from them.
Yeah, but you also have leaders within your ranks, who are speaking negatively about INEC even before this election. For instance, the likes of Rotimi Amici had some sharp criticism about INEC, about the credibility of the leadership of INEC. He had some very choice words to say about Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. Is there a chance that you're already giving a dog a bad name even before the D-Day comes?
I don't think Rotimi Amici spoke as a representative of the party. As an individual, he has his views, and we cannot stop him from expressing his opinion. But as a party, we know that we expect better from the system. We know that we must continue to have faith that the system will deliver as it should, because there is no any other electoral management body in the country except this. If we lose hope completely in what we expect of the electoral management body, then what is the essence of going into elections at all? So we definitely will engage with them as per what we have noticed. The public has also seen, and I'm sure from within them, they also know what has happened. But what we expect is that lessons will be learned, and then corrective measures will be put in place moving forward. So whatsoever Rotimi Amici says, he doesn't speak on behalf of ADC.
Yeah, but I reckon that he's echoing or re-echoing some of the concerns that other people within the party feel.
Yeah, like I said, individuals have every right to express their opinion, but it is not the collective opinion of the party. And we have not made a statement, I mean, as regards the electoral management body yet, as far as these elections are concerned. And when we finish what we're doing, we'll come clearly with our facts and figures and say this is what we think of the electoral management body, and also give advice as to what we think they should do.
In most of them, Dr. Mani, the performance, I mean, you have a particular, reaction to the word spectacular, but the performance was off the charts in a negative way, so much so that one would not expect ADC to contest the result of the election.
No, you see, except if you don't understand the premise from which we're coming. It would be very much unfair for you to use these off-season elections in a few constituencies scattered here and there, where they have all the time and they have all the resources to zero in there and do what they did.
But some would say, so do you.
No.
Smaller elections are easier to handle and to manage than bigger elections, isn't it?
No. It is easier to rig smaller elections. One election in, let's say, one out of, let's say, 30 or 40 constituencies in a state, it's easier for the state apparatus to zero in there and rig it than to rig all the elections happening in all the constituencies in all the country at the same time. As a matter of fact, if the amount of money that they distributed, if they are to distribute that kind of money in a general elections, they will not be able to do it because we don't have that much cash available for anybody to distribute. And so you can see why this is different from what will likely happen in a general elections where we are looking at multiple constituencies. We are looking at hundreds of elections, happening at the same time and simultaneously all over the country. So this is why it's different. This is why they're able to do what they did, because of the small size and the fact that they can zero in there.
When you make accusations about rigging, you're saying that as Dr. Ibrahim Mani, not as the views of the ADC.
No, ADC has made a statement that there were riggings, and most of what I've said is directly from the statement. What I've talked about rigging is exactly the position of our party. The fact that they used money, the fact that they intimidated voters, the fact that they used state apparatus to determine victory in these elections is the position of our party.
All right, let's talk about some internal wranglings then, because it doesn't look like you have your house in order. There are still grumblings about the leadership of the ADC. How concerned are you about that torpedoing whatever you have planned for 2027?
Yeah, so if you notice, the noise has started quieting down. They're beginning to get...
Until they come back up again.
No, they will get tired and they will stop. They think they can break our resolve. They think they can create confusion in us. They think the strategy is going to work. But we have remained resolute, we have remained determined, and we have remained focused in seeing that we build a party that is endearing to the people, that has structures that are deeply rooted in democratic principles and in the minds of our people, that produce candidates that are generally going to be accepted by Nigerians and eventually clinch victory in the next elections. That they cannot derail us. And whatsoever they are doing, we have always known it's going to happen. They are jittery, they are panicky, and they are using all sorts of means, including lots of money to dissuade some of our members to come and create the kind of noise that you're hearing in the past weeks. But they're not going to succeed.
All right. Let's talk about some of the not so confirmed signings within the ranks of the ADC. Peter Obi obviously has some sympathy and support for the ADC, but he's not 100% locked down yet. What are you doing about the likes of Jonathan and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso when it comes to wooing them? Because the PDP has been upfront about it, at least not as a political party, but some of the key voices in the PDP are outrightly campaigning to bring in Jonathan and Peter Obi into their ranks.
What we have done in this coalition is to come together and create an enabling environment, open up the party, and make it available to all well-meaning Nigerians to want to come in. People can decide to come at different times, and when they feel it's most convenient for them to come, depending on their personal preferences or expediency. So many more people will come. They will come in at the right time. What we know is that we'll be able to build a strong enough and a formidable platform that will be able to push this government out of power in the next elections.
Are you poaching them? Are you actively trying to sign them up on the coalition?
So what we're doing now is issues that revolves around mobilization and reaching out, registering new members and so on. So reaching out could mean talking to them and making them to understand where we are and how we got there and where we're going to. Some of them may have certain concerns. Of course, politicians have different interests and as it were. So a lot of negotiations are still ongoing, but like I said earlier, the idea is to make it, open enough and susceptible enough, attractive enough for them to come in, irrespective of whatsoever idiosyncrasies they're coming with.
Some would say the more the merrier, but we know in politics sometimes when it's at the very top, the more is not always merrier, because when you have competing ambitions, you don't want too many people competing for just one particular position. Are you concerned that sometimes this coalition itself could pose to be the main challenge that could undermine its success?
Not quite. Like with what we're going to put in place and the processes that will evolve within the next couple of months, it's going to bring everybody together in a way that the numbers will become our strength. And eventually, a candidate will emerge. There can be more than one candidate. And they all know that it has to be one candidate. There is no preferred candidate at the moment. It can be anybody. It can be any of the people we are mentioning, or even one of the ones that we have not even mentioned. The most important thing is that that candidate comes out as a result of a process that is accepted by the other ones, and they are ready to rally around him. This is what we want to achieve.
All right, time is up, but I have to ask you this. PDP is almost 100% certainly going to zone its candidate for the presidency to the south. The APC is already a given. The president is from the southern part of the country. Is the ADC considering zoning the ticket?
We have not decided on that yet.
But is it a conversation?
Of course, there is nothing that is off the table.
All right. Let's leave it here for now. Dr. Ibrahim Mani, thank you so much for your time this evening.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you very much for the insight.
Much, yeah.
All right. That is our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daily Politics. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 p.m. exclusive as always on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.